Good day. Welcome everyone to our 2021 Protection of Civilians Conference. I would like to start off with thanking you. First of all, thanking all the participants and the contributors that we will have throughout the 3 days. I would also like to thank, obviously, the organizing team for putting all of these 3 beautiful program days together. And I would like to thank our partners, in part here, in person present during today, but also a lot of them online. And I would like to specifically note all the partners who have been contributing their efforts towards these days, but also, of course, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Ministry of Defense, who have helped out with a few sessions. We will have a slightly adapted program for these 3 days, since we are in a partial lockdown in the Netherlands and we have to stop at 5. So I would like to ask you to review carefully the program for the following 3 days, so that you will not be surprised by any last-minute changes on our behalf. Before I would like to pose a few words as an introduction, I would like to ask you to start filling out our poll. If all goes well, we have one in the image right now. If you minimize your window, you will see the poll itself. And if all goes well, you will also find a code on screen through which you can fill out this poll. We'll come back to that shortly. On the content, I've thought long and hard about the perfect words for opening today's session, and I can already admit that I did not find the perfect words. When looking at the situation in the world for the last year, it's not really a situation that has improved by any stretch of the imagination. Suffering in conflict has unfortunately continued, and our ability to actually protect civilians in conflict has seemingly not increased. So this is not a happy moment per se that we are all together here today. Despite we are here today in a shared belief that together we can actually do better. That means that we have to work together. We have to be critical of each other, but we also have to be critical of ourselves, our own roles in protecting civilians. It is with that belief that we have an inspirational program here for you today, in which, again, we would not only like to reflect on the challenges of civilian protections, but also reflect on our own ability, our own views, and our own roles in conflict. That is not to say that we have to be negative about these things. That is to say we have to be reflective and critically so if we are to improve on the situation. With that, I would like to continue this opening, and I would like to see if we have results on the. We do not have results on the poll at this moment, I see. What I would like to do now is to move over to my colleagues, Wilbert and Selma, to look at the program of day 2, day 3, and then day 1 again. So maybe I can first turn to my colleague Selma for the program of day 2. Thank you.
Thank you. Tomorrow on day 2 of the conference, we will focus on the theme accountability to civilians. Overarching questions for all sessions are: how can civilians in conflict hold to account those that caused harm? And what steps have security actors taken to ensure accountabilities towards civilians? In the morning, we will focus on the case of the Dutch-led bombing raid on the Iraqi town of Hawija, 2015. We will first hear from civilians from Hawija what happened in 2015 and how that affects civilians' life to this day. We're honored with the presence of Mr. Sabhan, the mayor of Hawija, and Mr. Tovan, who is the director of Al-Ghad. Right after, my colleagues from PAX, Al-Ghad and Utrecht University will share findings from their research in Hawija, conducted in the past months. In the afternoon, we will discuss practical examples of security actors taking steps forwards, some form of accountability. The expert panel will reflect on the key question: are these good practical examples? We end the day looking at Afghanistan with various people who experienced US and NATO withdrawal firsthand. They will discuss how the collapse of the Afghan government and the withdrawal of Western troops affects accountability from the perspective of the civilians. We hope you join us tomorrow as well.
Thanks, and welcome to everyone, first of all online, but also people here in the audience. Maybe good to understand for people online that we do actually have a bit of an audience. We had anticipated this to be a fully hybrid event, and it still is, although we have quite a few less people who were actually able to join us. But we still have, of course, all the speakers, but luckily also a couple of people who made it to the venue. So welcome to all of those, but also everybody online. On day 3, we will focus on the need and the urgency to champion PoC internationally. At PAX, we believe that to advance protection of civilians, there's a serious need for champions, both states but also non-states, to speak up and act also on behalf or in support of civilians in conflict who are facing serious security threats. And we're proud to announce that for day 3, we have a very diverse and very rich set of speakers and contributors to talk about this topic. Starting with Admiral Stavridis, the former NATO Supreme Allied Commander, who will share lessons learned on PoC for the future of warfare. Right after that, we will have an expert panel or a panel with experts and representatives from Chad, Iraq and the Netherlands, on connecting realities to champion protection of civilians. And we will close off the day, but also the conference, with 2 parallel sessions. One session is an open session, open to everyone, where people talk about, where our experts talk about the connection between resilience and the protection of civilians. And the other session is an invitation-only session, where representatives and participants talk about championing PoC in international organizations. Please find all the details of all the speakers for day 3, but also day 2, that was introduced by Selma already, on the conference platform, in the speakers section. And as Hans already said, also please take a good look at all the starting times of the sessions, because we had to squeeze the program a little bit because of the COVID restrictions. I think we're now back to Selma for day 1 today.
Yes, because you're here to join the first day of the conference. So today's theme is international support to local security actors. This day will focus on how relevant international support is for the security of civilians, and with that, the potential for peace. We'll start with a session on South Sudan. The panel will talk about different perceptions on what can be provided nationally and internationally when it comes to the law enforcement gap in South Sudan. After, civil society representatives from Burkina Faso, Mali and Chad will reflect on a question such as how can international support to local security actors contribute to peace and protection of civilians in the Sahel region. Also, panelists will be asked to share their recommendations for future national and international intervention in the region. I'm very proud to announce to you the key speaker of today, Mr. Shawali from the Danish Committee for Aid to Afghan Refugees, Dakar. Mr. Shawali will join us from Kabul, and we'll have a conversation with my colleague Saba Azim on the recent developments of Afghanistan and the current situation of civilians living in Afghanistan. After, a diverse panel with military and civil speakers will discuss the training of local forces, looking at lessons learned from Afghanistan. We close the day with the final panel discussing how and or whether we can apply the relevant lessons learned from Afghanistan in the context of Iraq. So that's the program of today, and I hope you enjoy the program.
Thank you very much, Selma and Wilbert, for highlighting the program. For me, there's just a few things to tell you about the housekeeping. We have a few details on that will come on slides. The slides are too far away from me to read out anyway, so I'll just hit the key points of it. In these 3 days, we hope for your active participation. That means ask questions, engage speakers. We have an online platform on which you can find all the participants and speakers. And and you can actually engage with them through chat, through video calls. There are numerous ways to do so. We also have a library section on the platform on which you can find contributions from people participating, people presenting, and on the topics that we will be talking about. So have a look. There's a lot of interesting material in there. See who wrote what and connect with them during those days. During the sessions, we ask for your active contributions through questions. There will be, at times, there will be Slido-based questions introduced. You can go to the Slido, you can join a poll. You can also ask questions during sessions, and we will try to include those questions in the sessions as we move along these 3 days. That's it. I'm sure you can read more details on housekeeping on the slides, but those are the most important things that I could come up with at this point. Let me round off this word of welcome by again asking for your active contribution. Let me ask you again to contribute towards the goal of protection of civilians that again we believe that only together we can hope to achieve. Please be critical of things that aren't going right, but don't be overly so. It is easy to see in this world, day and age, that we have the ability to be critical of just about anyone in this world. But we have to realize that we are also responsible for contributing to a solution. So criticism, yes. Staying constructive, also yes. Let's try and inspire to do better on protection of civilians together during those 3 days. And let's make sure that we do so in a respectful and helpful way. With this, I would like to thank you in advance for your active participation. I would welcome you to the remainder of today and the coming 2 days. And again, welcome to all of you and thank you for your active participation. Thank you.